Hi friends, welcome to Moody Blooms. I'm Mary Ellen, and today we're going to cover the 11 common peace lily problems and how to fix them. Its scientific name is Spathiphyllum, and the genus name means spathe-leaf. Now, flowering leaves that look like white flags are the marker of every peace lily. Spathiphyllum is a genus of evergreen perennials native to the forest floors of tropical Central America and Southeast Asia. While there are around 50 different species of peace lilies, there are a handful that are most common. Unless it's variegated, meaning it has multi-hued leaves, all peace lilies share a similar look. Beautiful, lush, full leaves with dark emerald hues and white flowering leaves called spathes. These resemble the white flag of peace, for which this plant is known for. Peace lilies are popular among plant novices for their ability to tolerate different light conditions indoors. They thrive in medium to bright indirect light indoors, as well as tolerate low indirect light. Peace lilies are one of the most useful plants for decorating the interior of both homes and professional spaces. But beyond being decorative, it still has a more interesting side, as it has the ability to filter and clean the air of toxins while enriching the atmosphere with oxygen. So here are the most common peace lily problems and how you can address them to keep your plant happy. The first one is peace lily yellow leaves. So why do peace lily leaves turn yellow? Well, the most common reason that the striking green leaves turn yellow is overwatering. Sometimes factors like sudden change in temperature or location might also stress the plant, causing its leaves to turn yellow. Your peace lily will thrive in temperatures between 65 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what makes it such a great indoor plant. They hate the cold. So when exposed to cold drafts or temperatures under 40 degrees Fahrenheit, you might witness some leaf curling or yellowing. Extended periods below 40 degrees Fahrenheit can also damage leaves, stems, and roots. If you notice wilting yellow leaves that are overly soft, stop watering your plant and allow the top half of the soil to dry out. Overwatering and waterlogged soil can cause root rot. Peace lily thrives well in temperatures of 65 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So do not keep it in a location that is too hot or too cold. Most houseplants are just like humans. They love it at 75 degrees and sunny. It's a good idea to move your peace lily away from non-insulated windows or doors during the winter months to protect it from cold drafts. Never place it in front of AC vents or heaters. Be sure not to place it in an area that is too hot or too cold. You'll recognize root rot disease in peace lilies if you notice yellowing leaves and a wilting appearance. Oftentimes, cleaning the roots and repotting the plant in fresh, healthy soil will help. Root rot is, of course, caused by overwatering. And overwatering is one of the most serious peace lily problems, and it needs immediate attention. This is because all that excess water actually suffocates the roots as they cannot access the required oxygen. As a result, root rot sets in, causing the plant to wilt and in severe cases even die. To fix an overwatered peace lily, you'll need to know how bad the problem is. Inspect the roots for signs of root rot. If there is none, then simply stop watering your plant and let the top half of the soil dry out before watering again. Ensure the plant is positioned in bright, indirect light with moderate temperatures and ventilation. If there is evidence of root rot, carefully trim the damaged roots and repot in a new pot. Be sure it has proper drainage holes and fresh, well-draining soil that is not moist. If you were growing a peace lily in a pot bigger in size than required, the soil will take a long time to dry out. It will result in overwatering conditions and cause root rot. Always go for a pot that's one size bigger than the root ball because peace lilies like to be slightly root bound. To avoid overwatering, always use a pot with sufficient drainage holes. Now, yellowing peace lily leaves can also happen to leaves that the plant is ready to get rid of. If you see 1 or 2 yellow leaves on a peace lily that's otherwise growing well, there's usually no reason to be concerned. Problem number 2 is peace lily drooping. Peace lilies wilt quite quickly and often dramatically if they are left without water, but thankfully they usually recover without too many issues. Repeated underwatering will usually result in some brown leaf tips and edges, but otherwise the plant will live. Overwatering is a much more dangerous problem as it can be fatal to peace lily with too much water. Being tropical plants, peace lilies do enjoy slightly moist soil. However, constant soggy soil and poor drainage will cause drooping leaves and root rot. Unfortunately, without roots, your plant will struggle to survive. Use the instructions mentioned earlier in this video to remedy an overwatering issue. You can also check the following things to see if your plant is drooping due to overwatering or underwatering. If the soil feels soggy or generally damp, overwatering is more likely. If the soil is totally dry, then you know it must be underwatered. Overwatering can cause generalized yellowing in the leaves, most often affecting lower leaves first. Both overwatering and underwatering can cause brown leaf tips and edges. However, this can happen with mild underwatering, but will only happen with severe overwatering. Water doesn't actually reach the roots if the soil is compacted. It just flows around the edges of the pot and out the drainage hole. Aerate houseplant soil regularly by gently loosening and poking it with a knitting needle or similar. Check the roots through the drainage holes, or lift the plant out of its pot to inspect the roots. Look for brown, mushy, smelly, fragile roots that indicate root rot has been caused by overwatering. If your peace lily is in a pot that is much bigger than the plant, the soil will take a long time to dry out and overwatering is much more likely. Another indicator could be the pot type and drainage. The soil in a porous pot like terracotta or wood dries faster than non-porous pots, which would be like a plastic or a glazed ceramic or metal pot. If your pot does not have drainage holes, overwatering is much more likely. So how do we fix an underwatered peace lily? Well, it's one of the easiest problems to fix. Water your peace lily thoroughly, allowing the water to flow out the drainage holes. Sometimes soil that is very dry has some trouble absorbing water quickly, so you may like to set the pot in a few inches of water and let the soil slowly soak up the water. Your peace lily should start to respond within a few hours, and the otherwise healthy leaves should be back to normal in a day or two. Yellow leaves from underwatering can eventually turn brown or black after an episode of the plant being forgotten. The plant itself will usually perk back up, but some leaves will likely have to be written off. Leaves with damage will not recover and revert back to green. Badly damaged leaves can be removed. Luckily, new foliage will be healthy. Remember, water the plant when the top soil feels dry to the touch. Grow peace lily in a pot with sufficient drainage holes, which will resolve excess water issues caused by drainage problems. Now, another reason for the peace lily drooping could be from lack of nutrients. If you haven't repotted or fertilized your peace lily in a while and you've ruled out watering issues, it might be time for you to add some nutrients. Nitrogen deficiency can be quite common in certain plants, and the usual symptom is the lowest and oldest leaves turn yellow. And this happens because the plant will relocate nitrogen from the older leaves to the more vigorously growing younger leaves. With a nutrient deficiency, the peace lily will also develop at a slower rate than normal. Repot it if it's been a very long time. Apply a diluted liquid houseplant fertilizer to correct the nutrient deficiency. Another reason that your peace lily might be drooping is from stress. This drama queen can droop in times of stress. I mean, who doesn't? If you recently potted your peace lily, it is possible that delicate root hairs have been damaged. Your peace lily can droop for a while after repotting while it focuses on the roots instead of the leaves. It might also abandon a few leaves, which will turn yellow and or brown. Problem number 3 is peace lily not flowering. So you ask, why is my peace lily not blooming? They rarely bloom in low light conditions, even though they're very tolerant of low light conditions. Blooms will become more and more sparse in low light, and then eventually they'll just stop blooming. As long as the other care requirements are being met, the foliage will be relatively unaffected by lower light. But there is not sufficient energy to allow the plant to bloom. Very occasionally, under-fertilizing can also be the cause of your peace lily not flowering. However, this will only happen to a plant that has not been fertilized or repotted for many years. So how do we get our peace lily to flower again once it's stopped? Well, to encourage your peace lily to flower, place it in bright indirect light. Replicating their natural, slightly moist environment can allow your peace lily to thrive and bloom. Apply a water-soluble houseplant fertilizer diluted to half strength every 3 to 5 weeks in the growing season. This can give your peace lily the little push it needs during the spring and summer. Also, if grown in an overly large pot, the plant will also focus its energy on underground growth rather than top growth, which means fewer flowers. Problem 4 is my peace lily flowers are turning green. Now, peace lily flowers turning green after having been white before is usually part of the normal peace lily flower life cycle. They start out green, turn white, and then go green at the end. However, if your peace lily's flower are coming out green and never turning white, this can be a sign that you're giving your plant a lot of light. This occurs because the plant performs more photosynthesis in stronger light, and the green pigment in the flower shows through. If you find the green color bothersome, you can move your peace lily to a slightly more shaded spot. Do keep in mind that the foliage growth won't be as abundant with less light. Lastly, green flowers on peace lilies are associated with over-fertilizing. If you think this might be the case, look for brown leaf tips, which are also a symptom. You can restore an over-fertilized peace lily by washing the soil with some distilled water to remove some of the excess nutrients. Use a balanced fertilizer during spring and summer once every 3 to 5 weeks. Okay, problem number 5, peace lily leaves turning black. Black leaf tips are more likely to be caused by underwatering than overwatering. Yellowing of peace lily leaves are more likely with overwatering. The blackened leaf tips can also be from excess salts in the soil, either from too much fertilizer or fluoride or chlorine in the water. Exposure or bacterial or fungal infection could also be the culprit. Peace lilies love plenty of light, but direct sun can be too much for them, especially without acclimation. Sunburn can damage leaves, causing peace lily leaves to turn black. Once the leaves turn black, they will never revert back to green. If more than 50% of the leaf is burned, remove it. In the future, gradually introduce additional sun. Peace lilies will also turn black after having been exposed to excess cold. This can happen if your plant is close to a drafty door or window, or if you accidentally leave it outside in cold temperatures. Unfortunately, cold temperatures can wipe out an entire plant in one night. However, if you think it can be saved, place it in a warm, bright spot. Keep the soil slightly moist to see if any new growth pops up. Underwatering a peace lily can also leave the leaves very dark brown and then black, occasionally even mixed with yellow. If your peace lily is drooping as well as black leaves, check how long it's been since you've watered. Inconsistent watering can also cause black on your peace lily leaves. Your peace lily will bounce back, most likely, but the blackened leaves will not recover. Leaves can turn black or show black spots, often mixed with yellowing from a fungal or bacterial infection. As mentioned earlier, trim damaged roots and foliage and repot into dry soil. Additionally, you can also use a fungicide. Problem number 6, peace lily with brown tips. Now, brown tips on your peace lily are an indication that something is bothering your plant. It isn't necessarily something to be too concerned about, especially if it's only a few of the lower leaves, but let's review the causes. So tap water could be your number one reason. If your water contains too much chlorine or fluoride, or it's on the hard side, it can affect some of your houseplants more than others. The reason behind this is the excess mineral buildup. Peace lilies can be sensitive to tap water. To fix the brown tips problem, which is caused by chlorine, allow the water to set out overnight. It will remove chlorine, but fluoride cannot be eliminated. Periodically, you can flush the soil with distilled water to prevent mineral buildup. An even better option is to use rainwater. I swear it is magic for plants. Now, brown tips can also be caused by fertilizer burn. Similar to what happens if minerals and salts from tap water build up, if you over-fertilize, this can cause brown tips on your peace lily. The solution is the same. Flush with distilled water. Pour 4 times more water than the volume of the pot. For example, a 1-gallon pot would need 4 gallons of distilled water. Don't forget to stop fertilizing in winter either. Over or underwatering can also cause your peace lily's tips to turn brown. Although these tend to result in the entire leaf turning brown, they are still associated with brown tips on peace lilies. Check whether the soil stays too soggy or gets too dry. Underwatering can make the edges of the foliage brown and brittle. Sunburn is another culprit of brown leaves. If your peace lily is receiving too much direct light, it can cause the leaves to burn. Long exposure to direct sunlight will burn its tender leaves. Sometimes burns can be dark brown, but typically black. Lack of proper humidity can also cause brown tips on your leaves. Peace lilies absolutely love humidity. So if dry air is causing its leaf tips to turn brown, increase humidity levels and make sure it is not placed close to any air vents or heaters. You can also group it with other plants to raise the humidity, or use a humidifier or a humidity tray. All great ways to improve humidity around your plants. Problem number 7 is peace lily with brown leaves. Now, sometimes the leaf will naturally replace itself. Leaves at the bottom of your plant will go brown and die off eventually, starting with the tips. If it's not happening at an alarming rate, your plant just doesn't need them anymore. If the lush green leaves of your peace lily are turning brown, then it can be an indication of any of the items we just mentioned. Typically, peace lily leaves will start turning brown at the tips and then gradually cover the entire leaf. Number 8, peace lily leaves curling. Now, curling leaves on your peace lily could be from too much bright light or temperatures above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, as well as pale, chlorotic, or necrotic leaves. Peace lily leaves curling is also a sign of inadequate fertilization. Fertilizer can improve the color of peace lilies suffering from too much light or heat. However, it may also cause buildup of salts. A room that is too cold or too hot may also be to blame. And once again, underwatering and or overwatering may be the culprit. Less common reasons that cause curling leaves are humidity, an overcrowded pot, or pest infestations. Problem number 9, peace lily flowers are dying. If you purchased your peace lily for those wonderful white flowers, it can be really disappointing when they start to die off. Luckily, in most cases, it's just a matter of time before they return. It is normal for flowers to turn brown after a week or so. Just cut them off as soon as they start to discolor. An occasional leaf dying is also normal. Here's what might be going on. You just bought your plant. Peace lily flowers dying shortly after or within a few weeks of buying the plant is usually not a cause for concern. Plants really don't like to be moved, and your peace lily might be getting rid of its flowers to focus on adjusting. Another reason could be that blooming season is over. Although plants indoors don't tend to have a very set blooming guideline, most spathiphyllums do start to flower in spring and also possibly in fall. Peace lily flowers dying during the winter is pretty normal, and you might have to wait until spring for them to return. Another reason that your peace lily flowers are dying could be any of the 8 problems that we mentioned above. They will drop their flowers when they're stressed, so any of these issues can cause flower loss in addition to their other symptoms. Your best bet is to look at the leaves as well and see if they give any indication that can narrow it down. As always, review your watering schedule first. So how long do peace lily flowers last? They typically bloom in spring and last several weeks when taken care of correctly. Though the plant is evergreen, it may not always flower. In fact, getting it to bloom can be finicky and it may not bloom at all. If your peace lily isn't blooming or the white spathes are discovered, modify its growing conditions. Problem 10 is pest problems for peace lilies. Now, generally, a peace lily does not get affected by the attack of pests, although stressed or weak plants can be susceptible to aphids, spider mites, or the evil mealybug. Sometimes these pests can also be brought in by a new houseplant. To keep your peace lily healthy, examine your plants when watering. Check stems and under the leaves for any early signs of pests. Once spotted, quarantine your infected plant away from the others to avoid pests spreading. Safeguard your peace lily plants from the nasty pests by wiping the leaves from time to time without missing the undersides. The pests can be taken care of using neem oil or a insecticidal soap solution. A link to my favorite organic insecticidal soap can be found in the description below. Problem 12, dull-looking leaves. To keep your peace lily's glossy leaves clean and shiny, use cloth gloves or a damp microfiber cloth to wipe away any dust from on top and bottom of the leaves. After wiping it, mist it lightly. Although it's not always easy to identify problems with your houseplants, hopefully this video has given you somewhat of an indication of what might be going on with your peace lily. Just to reiterate, it's usually a watering issue. In many cases, it's also something that doesn't warrant any stress, like natural leaf loss. Your plant unfortunately won't look as perfect in your home as it does in the perfect conditions of a nursery. And finally, don't worry too much if your plant dies. Peace lilies are cheap, and at least you learned something. I picked up mine for only $12.99 at IKEA. I have even been able to propagate it and make new peace lily plants. Thanks so much for joining us here on Moody Blooms. Feel free to comment below if you have any questions regarding your peace lily that we didn't cover in this video. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, and we'd love a big thumbs up if you found this video helpful. It really helps us get our videos out there. Thanks so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon.